This is the Zone 1 podcast for a premium travel experience. The Zone 1 podcast brings you incredible travel opportunities and excursions through networktravel.ca. The Zone 1 podcast features the legendary Jackie Ray Greening, Rick McSwain from Network Travel, and I'm your host, Terry Evans. It's always fun to get things rolling with another Zone 1 podcast, zone1podcast.com, and of course, networktravel.ca for a premium travel experience. We have Jackie Ray Greening, Rick McSwain from Network Travel, myself, and Rick, would you like to introduce our guest today?
We have a very special guest. I'm so excited. So Monique has been with us in, well, you can tell us in East Africa. So you're with us in Kenya, Monique, Spain and Portugal, South Pacific.
Yeah, I did the overnight to Seattle to see the Blue Jays as well.
The Jays too, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
So Monique has been with us with her husband, Brent, and Brent was just on here a minute ago, but he wasn't wearing any pants, so I had to leave. So, but the whole idea behind this is we want to have someone on that was a professional photographer, and Monique is walking around with all these trips that we've been doing, walking around with this massive lens and these amazing pictures. So I'm so
Here's
excited.
one of them.
Oh. There it is right there. And if I could introduce her by the first time I met was Africa. And once I started to see her pictures, I put my camera away.
Oh,
I knew I
That's
didn't.
very nice.
Yeah, I knew I didn't have to take another shot. I'll steal hers.
How many times have anyone made the joke about your lens and compensating for something that...
Oh my gosh. All the time. And, then you get the questions of how can you walk around with such heavy equipment? Well, you get used to it. I mean, this big lens, I wish I had it in Africa, but I wasn't courageous enough to get the Beast. And I've got the Beast since. I wish I had it then. But I mean, this one, obviously, I use it for wildlife and things like that. So it's not one that I'm necessarily carrying around as much as my other ones. So you get used to it. Strong arms. I've been working out.
You had some incredible pictures in Africa, though, so they were certainly better than our iPhone. Hey, JR?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I mean, I have in our condo here, Rick's seen it, I have a gallery wall now, and about half of the pictures I have on there are actually from Africa.
Yeah, beautiful.
So it was a really great place to go to get some unusual different shots. We really loved it. Love to go back, Rick.
Yep.
One of these days.
Before we get rolling too far into things talking about travel photography, let's talk just a moment to let people know where you are on Instagram. M_Langevin_Connell_photography. So
yeah,
it's really easy.
Yeah.
It's a lot to put on a business card, but you have photography and portraits as well on Instagram.
It's similar, yeah. I mean, I dabble a little bit in portraits. I'm not quite as confident there, but I really love to do it as well. I mean, I actually did bring Rick and my husband and one of our friends down into the beach in Diani Beach in their Africa shirts and took some shots of the three of them when we were there. Got some fun stuff. I actually had got a really nice one of Rick. I don't know if I ever showed it to him.
No, I have never seen
that's really rare. A nice picture of Rick.
Yeah, I know. Well, you saw the one I sent the two of you.
Oh, got it.
Classic.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, Monique. So Rick said you're a professional photographer. First of all, training. Did you just declare yourself a professional photographer, or have you gone through formal training?
I feel a little bit like an imposter, the imposter syndrome to call myself a professional photographer because, I mean, I don't have a website. I do sell some stuff if people ask me. I have done portrait photo shoots, but I mean, I think my work has really evolved. And I mean, for me, I've always loved photography, but coincidentally, I really decided I wanted to go for it after getting back from a trip about 10 years ago. I can't even remember the trip, but I think we'd been in Europe. And I got back and I downloaded my pictures to my computer and I was looking at them and I just thought, I want these to be better. Why aren't these better? What do I need to do? So I realized that as much as I love photography, the only time I tended to pick up my camera was when we went on trips or on special occasions like Christmas and birthdays. So it occurred to me, well, you want to get better at it. You got to practice. So I started walking around Edmonton with my camera and weirdly felt completely self-conscious. When you're traveling, you don't tend to feel self-conscious about it. But then because of Instagram and things like that, I discovered that there's a very strong photographic community here in Edmonton, and a lot of people are walking around taking pictures. So that got me going. And then, there's lots of ways to learn photography. I know a lot of photographers use YouTube, and I've done that a bit, but I like to have a teacher in front of me as well. So I did take some courses here in Edmonton. Then you have a body in front of you to ask questions. I took multiple courses, and I've done a few workshops that I've traveled to. So I'm constantly trying to improve my own photography. And as I said, I listen to YouTube, listen to other photographers, get photography books, just in an effort to continually be improving. Because I feel if you feel like you know it all, then probably it's time to hang up your apron, so to speak, anyway.
Do you ever take pictures just with your phone, or are you always using your cameras?
Well, I do both. And I mean, I'm not a snob about it either, because everybody has a camera nowadays, right? This is so convenient. We were recently in Spain for a month, and quite often if the weather wasn't great, or if I didn't want to be carrying my heavy camera around, I did take a fair amount of photos on my phone. I put together a few reels on my private account just to show people. So I'm happy to do it. I mean, sometimes when I'm actually on a shoot, sort of on my own, I will start with this, and I'll use it to kind of set myself up and to figure out what I like. And then I, set my camera up or whatever I have to do to take the shot, and I go from there.
What do people have to do when they're whether they're in Edmonton or wherever they happen to live, or compared to when they're traveling? What is the thing that takes you from the point of taking pictures of your food to taking pictures of where you are and having an opportunity to show people what you're experiencing?
Well, I think what people tend to do is just start, is what we call spray and pray. Like, you just start shooting pictures without much intention behind what you're doing. And again, this makes it easy because you can take, hundreds, thousands of pictures. I mean, even with my camera, I can do that the same thing. But I think if you want to kind of improve the pictures that you're taking and the pictures that maybe you want to show to people online on social media, you need to stop and think about, okay, well, what's interesting about this scene? What do I need to do to make it better? And then exclude everything else around it. I think sometimes everybody tries to get that big wide shot, and the big wide shot sometimes is not the best shot. Sometimes it's the smaller details that can be more interesting to look at. I mean, even food pictures can be fun too. I mean, everybody kind of likes to you get that special meal when you're on a trip, you like to take that shot. But even with your phone, there's a way to make it better. Like, just stick your iPhone or whatever into portrait mode, and you can blur out everything around it, and you have a better shot of your food.
As you're talking about stuff and you're bringing up examples, it makes me think of pictures that I've taken. When I was a kid, I had a Pentax MV, and I started to get acquiring lenses, and I turned into a bit of a photographer. Started early in my teens, and really got into it. And when you're describing scenarios, situations, locations, whatever the case might be, it makes me think of when I was on Mercer Street in New York, and I took a picture of my wife as she was walking down, and it's a cobblestone road, so I put my camera right up and lean it against the gutter, and you could see the cobblestone in the front, and the rule of thirds, where you've got 2/3
Rule of thirds.
cobblestone, and then that happening. But it also makes me think of another thing. When I finished the fence at my son's house, and I went to take a picture of the fence, saying, better to be handy than a knucklehead. And I took a picture of the fence, and it just so happened that there was a squirrel jumping from one branch to another as I took that. Like, just the weirdest things can happen. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you can plan for hours and never get the right shot, right?
Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes luck is part of the game. I mean, even in Africa, yes, you're going to see the animals, but you're not necessarily going to get the beautiful shot. You need something storytelling. And then back to your little story about your wife, that's interesting too, because I think another mistake that most people make, and sometimes even photographers, is we tend to walk around, with your camera, your phone, and you're always shooting at eye level. So you're getting the same perspective that we all see. So if you want to kind of play with people's brains and their perspective, shoot at a different level. So that's what Terry did. Like he said, he took his camera right down to the ground. Well, now you get a very different perspective that shot that makes it much more interesting than it might have been just taking it the way everybody sees it. Now they're going to look at it differently. So that is something that I really like to do. You know, the old knees don't work so well to crouch down as they used to. But if I can't, I mean, sometimes you ask Brent, sometimes I'm in, you know, some place and I'm sitting right down on the cold pavement and I'm trying to get a shot, you know, that has a different perspective and a different angle. It just makes it that little bit more interesting.
Yeah, we had that same experience in Africa. I told Jackie Ray to get the hell out of the Jeep. We were looking at a lion. Didn't do it.
Now that would have been a good picture.
Run, Forrest, run.
Not even the lion wanted me.
Networktravel.ca for a premium travel experience. Visit the website today to find out more about these amazing travel adventures. The East Africa Safari in 2027, Antarctica in 2027, Vietnam and Cambodia this fall, Machu Picchu and the Amazon this summer. Also this summer, 2 separate vacation opportunities with private yachts in Croatia. All this and so much more. See them all at networktravel.ca.
When you went to school, what was the one? Did you have any aha moments where, geez, of course?
Well, I think there were a lot of little aha moments. I don't know if I necessarily, when I started doing my learning, I had the thought of getting myself off of automatic, letting your camera do everything for you. So, you know, eventually I did, you know, I worked up the confidence to do everything manually. So I choose my settings. You know, when I do my editing, I don't shoot JPEGs with my camera anymore so that I process my images. If you remember the good old days, because we're all old enough, when, you know, you sent away a roll of film and it was processed for you. And now with Lightroom Classic, I process my own images instead of letting the camera do it, because that's what your phone and our cameras tend to do if you're an automatic, is they just process it. They just decide how much color should be in it. So I'm really in control now of not only what I shoot, but how I develop it. Takes time, but it's worth the effort.
I have a question. I don't understand, because in some cases people take pictures of amazing shots of something, but they'll put it in black and white, and I don't quite understand. Other than it's old and classic, but
that's super funny that you bring that up, because I just found.
Oh, he found it.
Okay, so that makes sense.
That's great.
There's the picture of Cody, and there's the cobblestones. That's on Mercer Street in New York City.
I love that.
That's a great shot.
I love that. Yeah. Absolutely, for sure it is.
But Rick's pissed off that it's in black and white.
Well, you know what? Black and white, it's not everyone's taste. I know people that don't like black and white. And see, to me, I like the black and white better than that, I think.
Yeah.
Because that's the color version, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nice.
I mean, I think black and white can be very effective if there's a lot of contrast. So, like, for example, here in my condo, I've got a lot of white. So if you had something that really contrasted with the white, it can be quite effective. If you have a lot of very similar tones and not a lot of contrast, then black and white doesn't necessarily work quite so well. But I mean, I love it in the right settings. It can be really effective, and it can add some drama. Or to your point, Rick, it can make it look a little bit more classic and old-fashioned.
Well, Terry, I didn't know you were like a photography buff.
Oh my God, I have. And when I go to a place like New York, I know know that New York isn't like old as in Europe old or anything like that. But looking and seeing the buildings and all the infrastructure and stuff, and just taking pictures of old doors and shadowy alleys, and the cavernous sort of speakeasy that's down at the bottom or in the basement of the hotel that's in Tribeca on the I can never remember the name of the hotel that we stayed at, but it's on that Triangle Point street in Tribeca. But when we went to Scotland, I was just taking pictures with my phone, and I was just in my absolute heyday taking pictures of the most.
Well, again, two very different places, right? And I've been to both as well. And we were just in Spain, and I did a lot of what you were talking about too. I love taking pictures of different doors or different windows with flower pots on top of them. But then you go to Scotland and you have this beautiful, vast landscape. It's very different, very beautiful, different style photography. But, it's just something that we all, we like to take these beautiful shots to give us memories of these trips that we've taken as well.
So those that are listening in, is there a particular tip that you would give somebody that's just starting? They really want. What do you when you look at a layman's picture and you go, this happens over and over again? The landscape shots or what?
Well, it's going back to what I said earlier, like, don't be in such a hurry to take your picture. Look around, see what do you find interesting in the scene in front of you, and then maybe even even if you're like, if I could use the Plaza de la España where we'd been to in Spain. So it's this beautiful courtyard and it's massive and it's got all this tile work. Now, if you take a really wide shot of it, you're not going to really see all the beautiful details that are there. So ask yourself, what makes this so beautiful? Well, there's a bench over there that's made with tiles. Why don't I go over there and just take a picture of the bench itself? And then to my other point, do a slightly different perspective. Maybe I'll take it a little bit lower. I'll take it a little bit higher. So I would do that. Exclude things like, again, the wide shots can be great. Sometimes that's your safe shot. You take your wide shot. But if you're in a place that's very touristy and there's a lot of tourists, you're going to be including a lot of people in your pictures that you don't want to include either. So don't be afraid to kind of zoom into a scene. So, that's sort of where I would start. And again, using different perspectives and use your feet. That's something as photographers we say is use your feet, because you might be standing right in front of something and you think, well, this is nice. But, if you move, around to the side of it, maybe there's a different perspective and a different angle to it that makes it more interesting. I mean, I tend, when I'm photographing buildings, if I can, so let's say there's a beautiful church. What do people tend to do? Stand in front of the church, right in front of it, center it, click, got my picture. That's great. Do that. But of course, with photos being two-dimensional, you lose that third dimension. So if it's not a church or a building that's attached to other ones, walk to the corner of the building. And now you can see different dimensions to the building. And it adds that third dimension that you can at least hint at, even if you can't see it in a picture. So use your feet, use your eyes, exclude things that you don't want.
I am so totally nerding out right now and on this conversation because it's like you said, Rick, you didn't know I was into photography, but you're saying all of the things that I think of. There's a difference between observing a destination and just visiting it. And I have the most amazing picture of a manhole from Victoria, like a manhole cover.
Yeah.
And the same thing, standing across from a church or an old building and waiting for the traffic to just be right so that you can get that spot. But then there's the other thing too, where you talk about having people stand in front of the church and pose. Like there's people
sometimes
I know,
it's a bit, yeah.
Well, there's people I know who hate having their picture taken because it's always like that. But then they get mad when I take candid photographs, because what that does is it really shows the personality of the people in the photo rather than everybody standing there going,
posing.
Yeah. I think Terry is a bit of my spirit animal, because if we're talking about travel photography, I think there's a lot of elements to what makes it successful. So, and I'm talking about everybody. I'm not talking about photographers necessarily, but I think for myself, I think the best job I ever did of travel photography was when we went to Spain and Portugal. So there was a group of people, it was sort of a network travel trip, but Rick organized it for the Electrical Contractors Association of Alberta. And so a lot of the group, we knew each other. So we're comfortable with each other. And, a picture, a really good picture, for the most part, there's exceptions. You want it to be somewhat of a storytelling picture, right? So, even a sunset, someone will say, well, that's not a story. Well, it is a story. It was a beautiful night. This happened, so on and so forth. But when you're traveling, there's all sorts of stories going on all the time. And what I try and do, as to Terry's point, is that I do sneak around and I try and get candid pictures of people. What I do quite often is this lens goes on. And this one allows me to zoom and get pictures of people without being too close to them so that they don't know I'm necessarily doing it. So I got a lot of really cool candid shots. And I also like to get candid shots of locals. So when we were in Africa, I actually, at a certain point, I put a lens on my camera and we're driving. I put on a longer lens, and when the car slowed down, the windows were open. I had it on a fast shutter speed. And when we were driving by people, if I saw a scene I thought was interesting, click, 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 click. And I would come home and maybe 10 of those pictures would be crap, but I did get some interesting pictures of locals as well. But then add to that, I realized at a certain point, because I tended to always get candid shots, you need the pose shots too. So on that trip, I asked every couple by the end of the trip, could I get a couple of shots? And, I'm like, I'm not photogenic, everybody can take a good picture. So I did that, and I got the scenic shots, I got the wide shots. So I was really happy with what I got on that trip from a travel perspective, because I had a lot of storytelling images. So yeah, candid shots, I'm all for that. In fact, I was just in Spain, and my sister was laughing at me. We were at a restaurant one day, and I had this lens on. I was trying to get pictures of these guys sitting in the corner of the restaurant, which I did, by the way. Took a bit of patience, but I did get them.
Reluctantly.
Hi, this is Terry Evans, hoping you'll join me for the Reluctantly Podcast. ReluctantlyPodcast.com, with guests like Tom Cochran, Brian Johnson from AC/DC, Brian Baumler, and Kevin Lowe, formerly with the Edmonton Oilers. Also Darby Mills, Lee Aaron, Haley Benedict, and more. ReluctantlyPodcast.com.
Reluctantly.
What about some of the destinations you go on? And the reason I bring this up is because of personal experience. What about some of the destinations where you go where there is, it's not really taboo, but some people aren't crazy about having their pictures taken? An example that I have is when I was in Thailand and we were in Hua Hin and going to see some of the monasteries. And I would ask the monks if it was okay if I took their pictures and whatnot. And, you go and make a donation at the thing where they have the gold leaf Buddha and all that stuff. But I have some really amazing candid shots of some of the monks at the monasteries in Thailand. And it's all over Thailand, everywhere that we went, right from the River Kwai down to Hua Hin and everything in between in Bangkok and whatnot. But you do have to be careful of who you capture.
You do, absolutely. Well, yeah, and then I'm also very conscientious about photographing children too. I mean, we have laws that protect our children in terms of photography. I do believe, for the most part, that I think that if they're in a public space, apparently you can take pictures of them. But I've actually been in places, like even with people I know, where if I wanted to take pictures of the kids, I always go and ask parents first. They're usually very happy to say yes, and almost without exception, they're always very happy that I asked. When I'm traveling, as I said, sometimes if I see a scene that interests me, I try and do it very surreptitiously. If I can't, I don't necessarily do it. I mean, we were in Morocco for a couple of days on this last trip too. And of course, the way people dress and things like that were very different. So again, for me, I just put on a longer lens and hope I can capture something from a distance. But you want to be respectful. I mean, I obviously don't want to get in their face. And I'm sure you've all seen videos of, one that comes to mind was someone was in Japan and she was trying to photograph a geisha woman, and the woman obviously didn't want her photo picture taken. And this woman was chasing after her. And I would never do that. If people really don't want their picture taken, then I won't.
Yeah, religious sites and, certain cultures too are very sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially kids. I mean, children, you don't take pictures of children typically.
No,
But yeah, it's kind of taboo anyway. Yeah, we see a lot of that too in different religious settings that we go to, in monks like that, mosques, places like that. We had one situation where we had a lady. She wasn't with us, but she came up to. We were at a temple in Vietnam, actually, or Cambodia. And she came up to this lady and asked her to get out. She was praying, and she asked her to get out of the area because she wanted a picture of the temple. And I was like, "Jeez, some people."
She was praying.
Yeah.
That was Cambodia. I remember that.
Yeah. Some people are very entitled.
Let's talk about the shot, the not the candid shot, but when people, let's say there's 4 people lined up in front of that church. What should somebody that's just a rookie do to make it more interesting or make it a better picture with their iPhone or whatever?
I mean, this should be easy for you. First of all, tell a joke or something, get them to relax. Because of course, you know what it's like. People tend to stand all stiff, and a lot of people, I'd say more than not, tend to be uncomfortable posing for pictures, especially people more our age. I think the younger generation, they're so used to having their phones or cameras with them all the time and doing all the selfie taking that they're a little bit more comfortable. But things like, for me, again, going back to Spain, like or to our Spain and Portugal trip that we took with Rick, I would see some of our couples or groups that would go off to take pictures. And of course, you want to do them with a beautiful backdrop, but be mindful of where the light's hitting you too. So quite often, it's the middle of a bright sunny day. And if you're standing with full on the sun, it's not the most attractive. So, try and find a place with a little bit of shade if you can, to just make the light a little bit more even. And, maybe get them to interact with each other. Sometimes that works too, so it doesn't look so stiff and posed. Like, but, and I was half serious, like if you could get them to relax and use a little bit of humor to take the picture, and then talk to people. I sometimes do that I'm taking a lot of pictures, which is easy to do with your phone. Take a lot of pictures of spray and pray in this instance. Take a lot of pictures all at once as you're talking to them, and there'll be one in there that'll probably be better than the rest.
Actually, and Monique too. I mean, because when you're on a group with us, you're always walking around with your lens. So people, I think, eventually just become kind of comfortable seeing you with your lens, and they don't say or act differently, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I know you followed me around a few times where, I'm going back to this trip, but I remember there's a gentleman called Dwayne, I believe. We were in some kind of a church, and he happened to be sitting in front of a window. So he had this backlight. But what a beautiful silhouette it created. So of course I'm walking around like I do. And this scene caught my eye, and he's just sitting there looking out the window. And I thought this would be a really great shot of Dwayne. And it's better in black and white, Rick. Anyway, but so I did. I mean, I remember I was taking that shot, and Rick came up to me and he's like, "Oh, well, that's cool." And I think he did a very similar shot. And sure enough, I got home, and it's one of my favorite candid shots from the trip.
Did you ever send it to
white?
Nick? I remember that day. Did you send it to him?
No, I'm bad here. Like I processed all those pictures a while ago. What I do tend to do is I will make little slideshows. And I was going to do a slideshow from that trip, and I never did, but maybe I should get off my butt. Maybe this is the incentive I need to do a slideshow, because I did get some great people pictures, and I got some scenic shots, and I got a little bit of everything on that trip. So, because, it was kind of a cool shot. And it stuck with me, right? Not all your shots stick with you, but that one stuck with me.
One last little thing that is a little tip that can work is you're talking about taking pictures of people and, a little jocularity, trying to get people to loosen up and that sort of thing. The other thing, too, is there's things that people can do who are getting their picture taken and things that people can do who are taking the picture. I find a lot of times is instead, you want to make sure that everybody's sticking their chin out, because then they don't get that thing.
Yeah. In fact, people know me for that. People do actually. Yeah, because he's right. Look.
You don't get the double chin. And the other thing, too, is I like to do, like, even if people ask me would you mind taking a picture of us? I always hold it up above my head.
More flattering angle.
And it's a better angle, and it has the people kind of looking up instead of, like if you, I'm 6'5", a lot of people are looking up at me if I'm taking a picture of them anyway. But if you're not 6'5", maybe you're a little bit more diminutive, then people tend to be looking down, and then all of a sudden it's a less flattering thing. So there's things that people can do to make themselves look better. And I a lot of times I got, oh, well, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. And actually he's right. Absolutely, because I do that as well. Even like I had my young niece in here for a little photo shoot this week, and she now knows me well enough. As soon as I'm like, okay, ready, the chin came out. and Terry's not wrong. If you're taking a picture of people, I mean, if you look at the young people, how do they hold their phone when they do their selfies? That camera is always up because it is a more flattering angle, and you don't necessarily want to be shooting below.
And
Absolutely.
then it's also, Rick, suck your gut in.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, look, you guys, I've been on a dry march, so I don't need to suck it in anymore. Monique.
This has been the Zone 1 podcast. For a premium travel experience, Rick McSwain from networktravel.ca, Jackie Ray Greening. I'm Terry Evans. The Zone 1 podcast is part of the Reluctantly Podcast Network.